group pages on Facebook. We want you to check out the Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one, and the Lake Monstrosities group page is another. Now, feel free to join them both. We'd love to see you there. Each network mentioned also has a like and group page on Facebook. So check that out for upcoming content. This segment is brought to you by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey, by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Also check out his Facebook group pages, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the live chat room. Let's get back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are speaking with Claire Waters, author of Raising Faith. Claire, are you still with us?
I'm with you, Kevin. Hi.
All right. So, to start off this segment, I guess they say children in general have more psychic abilities than adults. Have you considered that as your children get older, they may lose some of their abilities? Or do you plan on educating them so that they may retain some of this as they get older?
Yeah, I have considered that. I've been told that by lots of people, but I've also been told by Spirit that they won't lose it. In all honesty, I think I've come to the point where I think we've been given these abilities to write this book to help lots of other people. And for that reason, I guess that's why I trust that I don't think it will really go anywhere. I think Faith is meant to have these abilities to share with all of us, to help us all understand. So I trust really. I think that she'll always have them. I was told she'd always have these abilities. I think, again, Tom, I think he will always be in tune with energies. And I totally agree with what you say. I think because I talk to them about it, I think there's a better chance perhaps of them hanging on to those abilities as well, because it is discussed, it's welcomed, it's understood. It's not something that we find excuses for, which I know many psychic mediums over the years have been told by parents, oh, it's just your imagination. And we don't do that. So, yeah, I think we have a good opportunity of hanging on to these abilities if the children want to.
I think a lot of it is conditioning, too. We're just conditioned from the time we're in school on until we're an adult. And even if you want extra education, we're conditioned even more.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's not the conditioning isn't always good. And it is it's still, we're lucky we could talk about it today. And I'm glad the veil or that pot's been lifted off, so to speak. Unfortunately, we're starting to see areas of censorship on social media and the unknown and unexplained, and it's unfortunate. It's a sign that they want to put the lid back on the pot. But, and that brings up the question that your daughter is in school now, correct?
She is.
Okay. How do you expect she'll cope with this if it's brought up? Because eventually it will be. Someone's going to eventually know that there's a book about her and that kind of thing.
Yes. Well, it's a tricky one. It really is, because she's now 14. So we wrote this book about the years that we've been through. And obviously it takes a good year or two to get it through the...
Okay, see, I thought she was younger.
She's now 14. So we've been through quite a bit now. The book is based on the story from when she was 4 years old. So it's from when we first discovered up to the age of 12, which is when we then wrote the book. And at age 14 in the UK, you go to what's called secondary school. And for her, this is a massive school. There are hundreds and hundreds of children there. And these children are from all walks of life, so there's a lot of different energies, there's a lot of different beliefs. It's a pretty scary place to be, in all honesty. Tom in particular finds it a challenge, with the energies and the fact he's so sensitive to these energies. It's really hard for them. And being the age of 14, as many 14-year-old girls are, it's a tricky time. Even if you don't have these abilities, it's a pretty tricky time. it's a place you have to learn to cope with a lot of strong characters, a lot of strong beliefs. This generation of children are also dealing with social media and IT equipment constantly, which is something we didn't particularly have in my day. And it's hard for them. It is hard for them. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to fit in. They're trying not to get bullied. They're trying to still be themselves somewhere along the line. And on top of that, particularly for Faith, she has this extra gift that she's also trying to deal with and to keep under the radar, because no, this is not something she's ever shared with her friends. She tried it once when she was very little, and it was dismissed, and it upset her so much that it was one of those instances that we, at the time we just said, look, okay, let's not do this then. Let's not talk about it with others for now. And although I'm comfortable talking about it, she sees me talking about it. She's not too keen on that. She doesn't particularly like it. She doesn't particularly want to be different. She doesn't want to stand out and be different to her peers at this age. I think it's challenging enough, isn't it, being 14? Never mind this. And she's aware that this could come out. She supports the book. She's happy that the book is there for helping other people. I hope in many ways that it doesn't find her, but if it does, I think we just cross that bridge when we come to it. We just take that on the chin as one of our life lessons that we have to get through. We kind of figured that the message was more important.
Yeah, I completely understand, and I think the way she's seeing it as is just doing it to protect herself, so to speak, because you never know how people are going to react. So,
yeah.
Have you seen the show Psychic Kids?
Sort of. I've not seen it on the TV, but I've heard about it. I think I might have seen it written and a picture of it.
If you can get a chance, you should watch that, because that's the premise of the show. Are kids that are coming into young adulthood who have abilities, can see spirits and that kind of thing. And what they do is they bring these kids to a retreat where there's a psychotherapist and a counselor and a medium.
And where there's paranormal
activity. Entities and whatnot. And they work with the children, not only on their abilities, but they also bring up, dealing with society, dealing with the trolls, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Right, and then and it gives the kids time. There are segments in the show where the kids sit by themselves and they openly talk with one another about what's going on, and they have that support system there, so they're not feeling ridiculed, and they have actually formed lifelong friendships.
Lovely.
So we have another question for you.
Like-minded.
Right. That support system. That's when you have these types of abilities. It's huge to have a support system. Yeah. It's very important. So we have another question for you from the chat room. Have you ever considered using your gifts or abilities to explore the trail of your ancestry?
No, is the honest answer. The trail of my ancestry. No, I haven't considered using it for that. I am actually going to see a lady that I know quite well who was offered to do me a future life progression, so that will be very interesting. But no, to use my own abilities, I haven't really considered that.
Well, I could either see a remote viewing or hypnotic regression and going into past lives.
Yeah, this lady does that too.
Past lives don't always hook up with our ancestry, obviously, but I could see that being two different ways you could possibly go about it.
Yeah, definitely. Those are two of the most sought after ways to go about it, because both ways will get more results.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, actually. It'd be quite a nice angle on it as well, wouldn't it, to understand where all this has come from?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, thank you. I will certainly consider that. Yeah, no, I mean, I love anything like this, anything. I just love learning. I love exploring, genuinely. It's just interesting, so interesting to understand and sort of connect the dots. I do love all that. So yeah, it's probably a really good move for me.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it as this way. We are all spiritual beings having a human existence. We're here to learn and grow.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. My husband knows this one. You know, he's constantly saying to me, "Why don't you ever read a normal novel?" Because the books I read are always personal growth, spiritual growth. I just love those kind of books, that I'm drawn to them. I'm not drawn to the novels. I think, again, being a homeopath, I think I hear, you know, reality and real life, and, you know, I hear people's stories all the time, and I don't need to read a novel about those things. I just want to read a novel about stuff, you know, stuff I don't hear, something new to me. So yeah, it drives him crazy. We're on holiday. He's like, "Why are you reading such heavy stuff?"
I read the same kind of books, so I can relate, and I do it, and it's for growth reasons, because you want to know more, you want to absorb as much as possible.
Yeah, I do, and I just, it fascinates me. You know, I'd much rather get more enjoyment out of reading that and understanding than I do reading somebody's tragic story, you know, with a difficult life, because I hear those all the time, and fascinating as they are, yeah, for me that's not, yeah, I'm not getting enough out of that, I think, to grow. So yeah, definitely books on yeah, anything spiritual is definitely where I go.
We have another question for you from the chat room.
Okay.
What would you consider the limits of your abilities? For example, psychic blind zones versus areas of great detailed perception.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think there's probably so much for me to explore with my own abilities. The only real thing, yeah, I mean, the only the only work I have done has been in the company of other psychic mediums, and them using their energy to help me. Um, so I don't know what the limits to my own abilities are. I know that I've stood on a stage and I've been able to bring spirit through and see them in my mind's eye and describe them. And for me, it's always very visual. You know, even the messages for me are visual. So it's interpreting those messages correctly that's important. But again, I've only really done that a few times with the help of a psychic medium. I haven't particularly worked on developing my abilities for me. I would like to. I really would. I love the idea of being able to do more. I guess part of me just figured it would come along when it was ready to come along. So I haven't done a huge amount of work, which perhaps I should have done.
You had mentioned guides before. Can you tell us about your guides?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, some of them come and go, but the ones that are always there, I have Will. Will is my main guide. So he's my gatekeeper that keeps everybody out that shouldn't be in. He's the one that protects me. He's there all the time. Any spiritual learning, any work I do, talking to you guys now, you know, Will always be there. And he's the main person, I guess, that I know. He's just there for everything. He's the one that's been with me since I was born. It was really interesting, actually. So we were, I have written about this in Raising Faith, but I was told by a medium that he was a little Chinese man. And so for years, I thought he was a little Chinese man because, again, I hadn't done any work to really clarify it myself. I just, you know, I was told that, and that was that. And then I referred to him being a little Chinese man once around Faith, and she literally spun on her heel to look at me. I don't know, she was maybe about 9 or 10 at this point, something like that. And she just laughed. She literally just looked at me and laughed. Then she looked at the corner of the room and doubled up laughing because she was watching Will, and his reaction was obviously quite amusing as well. So they were having a marvellous time. And I was stood there wondering what was going on. And she just said, "You know, why on earth did you think he was a little Chinese man?" And I said, "Well, I thought I'd been told that once. Why?" And she said, "Well, he's not." And I said, "All right, well, who is he then?" And she turned to the room and she watched for a moment and listened. And then she just said, "No," she said, he lived in Devon, which is a seaside village in England, down in the west coast. He came from Devon. I think he ran a shop. He ran a shop, and then he drowned. I think he went into the war and he drowned on a ship. He couldn't get out. But she said he's not a little Chinese man at all. And it was just hilarious. It was not so much the information about Will that